fitting. To you, it means more money. I told you I would make you rich, and I wouldn't lie to my own. Now for me, well, that's my business. I will call on you if I need your skills again, child. For now, enjoy your earnings. I have places to be, and preparations to make.
Greetings and salutations, and this is Techronaut here, back with more A Hat in Time, and we are here for the finale. Now, this video is going to be really long. It's why I did the Dot Hack GU Volume 1 finale video first, even though it's going to go up 2 days after this one, because this is the longest video I had to do for this week, so I wanted to put it off till last. That's usually what I do when, like, there's a long video for a week, is, like, put it off till last. Unless, like, I just really want to do them in order. But yeah, we got all 7 or 8 of our timepieces back from her. I think it's 7, because I think we get the last one, in this, in this part. But yeah, she's not too happy, as you can clearly tell.
Catch her. Make it quick.
Reward is 1 million.
This lady greedy as fuck, though. Like, she got all that money in there, but she
$1
can't
million
spare our
for the cat
timepieces
that
back.
brings
Like,
me on
seriously.
those feet.
Especially with, like, how much we've been, quote-unquote,
Run if
helping
you
her.
want.
I say quote-unquote because,
You won't get
in truth,
far.
Hat Kid was just trying to get her timepieces back. She wasn't really, like, working with this lady. This lady just thought. That's really what the funny part about all this is that that lady was basically being tricked by Hat Kid the whole time, so Hat Kid could get her timepieces. And that lady thought she was, like, using Hat Kid, or not using Hat Kid. She thought that like she had one over on Hat Kid. Where what I mean by that is, like, not that she was, like, tricking Hat Kid or anything. It's more like she thought she had the upper hand if Hat Kid were to betray her. In truth, she didn't. Because obviously Hat Kid's going to get out of this alive. I know at the moment it doesn't look that way, but Hat Kid's going to get out of this alive. Somehow. This part's really hard. This is probably the hardest, like, part we're going to be doing in this entire game. So you're going to have to bear with me here. It's even harder than, like, the final boss.
Make it quick.
Which makes sense because you're supposed to do this DLC, I think, after you beat the game. But you unlock it before you beat the game, so I just did it instead of Chapter 4 because I don't like Chapter 4. So if the game glitched there where there weren't, like, trains coming, so I was trying to take advantage of it and hoping that they wouldn't come. But they came. So that hope's dead. What kind of train system is this where you have, like, trains coming? Like, how many trains are going in that direction? I want to see that area. No, I'm serious. I want to see 200 trains pull up to the same spot. I want to see 200 trains pull up to the same spot. Because that's what it looks like is happening. I know it's that way for level design reasons, but it's just funny to think about that, like, there are gonna be like 200 trains pulling up to the same stop. Like, that's gotta be that's just funny. Okay, get up here. Do not hit the signs. Do not hit the signs past me. Damn it, past me. Can ya? Don't hit the signs. Ooh, we almost died, but I got hearts right here, luckily. The game is merciful, thankfully. It knows the bullshit I'm dealing with in this part. And when I say bullshit, I don't mean like this is like poorly designed or anything. I more so mean that, like, it's just a lot to deal with. I think this is like the most designed level in all of A Hat in Time. Like, every part of this chapter is just well designed, including this. The fact that this is so hard is part of why I think it's well designed, because it's hard without being like stupidly so. It's hard to the point where like it's tough to get through and you want to overcome it, but not to the point where it makes you rage quit. At least if you're a decent video game player at all, it shouldn't make you rage quit. Well, maybe I should specify decent platform, 3D platformer player, because I get that like some people don't play 3D platformers and a non-3D platformer player might not be good at this. But I'm someone who grew up on 3D platformers, so they're kind of my strongest area, which is why they're most of what I've done on this channel. Think about it, I've done Sonic Frontiers. Even if I count 2D platformers, that actually adds another 2 games into the list too. Like I've just grew up on platformers in general, mainly 3D, but I did play a few 2D ones growing up. So they're like my strongest game genre. And like,
do you think you can run?
Some people who look at platformers and who have either never played a platformer or have only seen gameplay of it, will just say, these games are just jumping. And to that I say, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Like, you're either an idiot or you're just like closed-minded about it, because actually closed-minded is probably more accurate, because someone just thinking that doesn't make them an idiot. It just means they don't know something and they're just closed-minded about it. Anyway, basically the reason why that's so dumb is because yes, it's a platformer. Of course you're gonna jump, but at the same time, that's not all that's to platformers. Well, okay, except Mario. Mario is mainly just jumping. Like, let's be real here. Mario is just mainly jumping. That's what most Mario games mainly are. There are exceptions, like there's Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy, Mario, what was that game called? Mario Odyssey. Those 3 are exceptions. There are like extra mechanics to them, but outside of them, Mario as a series is mainly jumping. And given that Mario's like the most well-known platformer series out there, I could see why from like an outside looking in, people would think, it's just jumping. It's just jump the game. That's it. When in reality, most good platformers, and yes, I am intending offense to Mario, because I don't think Mario games are really that good, aside from the exceptions I gave, because I do think Mario Sunshine, Galaxy 1 and 2, and Odyssey look like really good games. I've never played them, but they look like really good games, while the rest of the Mario, at least the platformer Mario games, I know there's Paper Mario, but at least like the regular platformer Mario games are just kind of basic as fuck, with not much substance to them. See, people like try to say that Mario's like better than Sonic, but the only reason like Mario does better than Sonic is because it's almost never willing to experiment with its main games. When it comes to like a main new Mario game, the only like times I could think of it experimenting was the Galaxy games and Mario Odyssey. Like, that's the only times I can really see like big experimentation with like a main Mario game. Whereas Sonic has done it a lot. Sonic does it too much, to be fair, but Mario doesn't do it enough, because like when you don't experiment at all with your game series, it's eventually just going to become boring, and that's kind of what I see most Mario games as. I feel like that's probably why Mario Odyssey had a bit of experimentation with the hat throwing mechanic and stuff, was probably because by that point they probably just realized, okay, these games are starting to get stale because we haven't done anything new with them in almost 10 years. We need to do something. And that's kind of why I respect Sonic a lot more than Mario, and why I'm a Sonic fan and not a Mario fan. I like games that are fun. Mario games are well polished and everything, but I don't find them fun. At least not the ones I've played. Again, I've only played like the new Super Mario Bros. Wii and like one of the other Mario Wii games. I forgot what it was. So I guess like mostly what I'm talking about is like gripes with those, but I've also just seen gameplay from like newer Mario games that look exactly like the same thing those games provided. So it's like, yeah. So when you look at Mario as like the prime example of platformers, of course you're gonna think it's just jump the game. 90% of Mario games are all just jumping, for the most part. You might have other moves and you might have power-ups and stuff, but it's mostly just jumping. Jump is your main move in those games. But then you got a game like A Hat in Time, where half of your jumps require a double jump or a dive to get across gaps. You also have your hats, which help you also get past certain areas. Like right here, for example, this is perfect timing. We got to use the witch's hat here. Is this jumping the game? No, you have mechanics. You have bloody mechanics that give you abilities. Well, okay, you want to know a better example than A Hat in Time? The Ratchet and Clank series. Okay, maybe not all of it because some of the games are mainly just shooter. But look at like games like Up Your Arsenal, Going Commando, and Rift Apart, which are kind of like half and half on the platforming and shooting for the most part. Up Your Arsenal does lean more into the shooting side, but Going Commando and Rift Apart are kind of half and half. So look at Ratchet and Clank, Going Commando, and Rift Apart. They're half platformer, half shooter. Look at how much you can do in those games, especially Rift Apart. Look at Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and tell me that's jump the game. I'm waiting. Go ahead and tell me. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, thought so. Okay, well, here's another example. Crash Bandicoot. And I know you might be going, okay, well, you're mainly doing jumping in that game. Well, yes, it is my first example that is mainly jumping. Because while there's a lot of jumping in A Hat in Time and the Ratchet and Clank, the two Ratchet and Clank games I specified, you kind of do half jumping and half something else. In A Hat in Time, the other half is using hats and diving. And then Ratchet and Clank, Going Commando, and Rift Apart, the other half is shooter mechanics. Thought so. But going back to... I don't know what I was saying. I kind of just paused because I was trying to like get back on topic. I was just like... But going back to Crash Bandicoot, yes, it's mainly jumping. About 70% of most of the Crash games is jumping. However, look at any Crash game that came after the first one. Do not count the first one because that one is basically jump the game with just a spin attack. So yeah, the first one's very basic like that. But then you look at Crash Bandicoot 2, Crash Bandicoot 3, Crash Bandicoot 4, Crash Twinsanity. Even the Crash of the Titans and Might Over Mutant games aren't just jump the game. And I know Crash of the Titans barely counts because there's less platforming to combat in that game, but you know my point.
From me. So bold.
You get my point.
For someone so small. All my fault, really.
Platformers, at least good ones, are not just jump the game. Look at Spyro 2 or Spyro the Dragon.
But you've disappointed
Both
me.
Let's Plays I've done on this channel. Look at Sonic Frontiers. Look at Sonic Rush Adventure is a good one because you're boosting as much as you're jumping. That's not jump the game. If anything, you'd call it boost the game. But that wouldn't be accurate either because if you're just boosted the whole time, you're going to fall off the stage and die 27 times. Like, it's so stupid to just look at a game and say it's the game. Because, like, or look at a game genre and say it's this the game. Because by that logic, you can look at shooters and say it's Gun Simulator the game. You can look at horror games and say it's you can look at horror games and say it's horror movie the game. You can look at okay, horror games are kind of a bad example because that's not really as basic that doesn't have like as basic of a description available. So maybe that was a bad one, but you can look at shooters, like I said, Gun Simulator the game. You can look at RPGs, fantasy, hold on, JRPGs, anime the game. There we go. Like, you get my point. When I bring up like these examples, you kind of see how stupid it is to call platformers as a whole jump the game. Because by the same logic, JRPGs are anime the game. Shooters, both third and first person, are Gun Simulator the game. You see why it doesn't make sense? Like, for anybody who, like, was earlier thinking that, like, I might be sounding stupid because jumping is the main point of platformers, which it is. But my point here is that that's not all there is to them, and most good platformers use jumping as just one of their mechanics. Like, it's stupid to look at any platformer besides maybe Crash 1 and the Super Mario Bros. Games, like the 2D Super Mario Bros. Games. If you look at any platformer that aren't those, for the most part, and you just say it's jump the game, you don't know shit about the game, and you probably haven't watched more than 10 minutes of gameplay. Most likely. And like I said, by the same logic, that you're calling them jump the game is basically but like saying that there's nothing to them besides their main noticeable feature. Which is why I brought up Gun Simulator which is why I called or said that shooters would be Gun Simulator the game and JRPGs would be anime the game. JRPGs are very anime in their like visual designs. So like if you just watch 10 minutes of a JRPG, it's gonna feel like you're watching an anime as a game. But that's not all there is to them. Obviously. If you look at someone play a shooter, it's just gonna look like a gun simulator. If you only watch them play it for like 10 minutes. And that's the point I'm trying to get across. Like, if you've paid attention to any good 3D platformer that isn't a Mario game or the first Crash Bandicoot, for more than 10 minutes, whether you played it yourself, watched someone else play it, or if you're only paying half attention to it, you're gonna notice it's not all just jumping. And to just say it's all jumping is just kind of stupid. A Hat in Time and Crash Bandicoot were my weakest examples here, but I also had really good ones like Ratchet and Clank and Sonic Rush Adventure. Go watch my Sonic Rush Adventure Let's Play and play a drinking game. Or actually, no. Better yet, go watch my Sonic Rush Adventure Let's Play and play a drinking game against someone else. One of you takes a shot every time I boost. One of you takes a shot every time I jump. Okay, don't actually do that because you'll get alcohol poisoning because of how much you gotta do both in that game. But that's my point is that you boost as much as you jump in that game, if not more. It's a lot like Sonic Generations in that regard. I would say Sonic Unleashed, but Sonic Unleashed, I believe, is more jumping than boost. Going off memory. I haven't played Sonic Unleashed since like 2017 because I haven't had a means to play it after my Wii. Or not my Wii, but the Wii I share with my siblings kind of stopped working. And I never played the SD version of Unleashed, but the SD version, I never played the HD version, but the SD version is more jumping than boosting. But then again, in the SD version, the boost is kind of like just a short burst rather than like boosting. But yeah, you understand my point here. Like, if platformers were all just jumping, they wouldn't be as popular as they are. They're not as popular as they used to be, mind you, not by a long shot. Like, they're definitely like a less popular type of game these days. Especially since most people who do enjoy platformers are either people who grew up playing them in the 90s and 2000s, or kids. That's the main audiences of platformers, is people who like grew up with them and kids. So like obviously when you look at them, they're not as popular as other game genres, which kind of have a big range of players to them. Most platformer players are either like over the age of 20 or under the age of 10. You don't have many teenagers playing platformers these days. You don't have many like people beyond their 40s playing platformers. Obviously, most people are in their 40s don't even play video games anymore. But you get my point. They don't have as big of an audience as most other games, but the audience they do have is loyal for a reason. Most kids who like play platformers will become loyal platformer fans. Most people who grew up playing platformers and still play them to this day already are platformer fans. So you got to think about that right now. If this game genre has such a loyal audience, even if it's not as big as like the general audience who would play shooters and stuff, and that's no shade to shooters by calling their audience general. It's just the fact that shooters are kind of more popular. And due to that, the general audience will enjoy them more than like people who are more deep into gaming. Not to say that people deep into gaming aren't going to be fans of shooters. They are. I'm just saying that like a lot of general audience people will probably enjoy a shooter more than a platformer. Is all I'm saying, because general audiences tend to be that way. They just gravitate to whatever is popular. Again, that's no shade to shooters. There's some really good shooters out there. There's the Borderlands series. Even with how shit Borderlands 3 plot is, I would still say that game plays well. There's the Ratchet & Clank games, which aren't as popular, but they're still popular enough, you know, like they're still, I think they're still more popular than most platformer series at this point. With the exceptions of Sonic and Mario, which I think are the only two platformers I can really say are more popular than Ratchet & Clank these days. Crash Bandicoot's kind of neck and neck with it, and Spyro's a little less popular than it. But you get my point. Those are the only 5 platformers I can think of off the top. Platforming series I can think off the top of my head. Unless A Hat in Time gets a sequel and it turning it into a series, but I don't see that happening. A Hat in Time very much feels like a one and done deal. Which is kind of sad because the sequel to this would have been really good. It's one of those... Sorry for hitting the mic. I keep doing that today for some reason. I did it like twice in my .hack GU finale video, and now I'm doing it here. But what was I saying? I'm trying to remember what I was saying. Right, this game could have like really used a sequel. Like, it's a really good game, and they could have improved on it. It would have been really cool. Even if the sequel isn't like featuring Hat Kid, it could have been like... Actually, well, let's be real. It probably would have featured Hat Kid, but if they could have done like something like the Resident Evil series does, where they alternate protagonists or something. That'd be a cool thing to see for a platformer series, but I wouldn't be against it. But this A Hat in Time has big potential to be a game series, a really good one at that, because of how the premise of it works. Basically, it's a time-traveling kid who gets stuck on an adventure on a planet. The fact that the protagonist is a time-traveling kid, or not time-traveling, the fact that the protagonist is a kid that travels on a spaceship and has these timepieces has so much potential to, like, you literally could make a sequel to this, and making the plot happen would be so easy. You wouldn't even need to think much on it. It would be so easy. Just, like, wherever Hat Kid was going, have like, wherever Hat Kid was trying to travel to, like her home or whatever, have that be the setting for the second game, maybe. Or maybe, like, have Hat Kid travel on another trip away from home, and then, like, she has to stop by somewhere, and that somewhere is the setting of the game. Or maybe travel back to this planet to meet up with her friends again, all the friends she's made again, and have that be the setting of the second game, but you explore new areas of the planet. There's so much potential for that. It's just, like, the story is so simple, but at the same time, it opens the door for a lot of, like, potential stuff to happen. You could even focus on the side characters in this game for the second game, and just not have the timepieces involved at all. Like, I know the title would probably have to be changed if you did that, but it would be a neat spin-off game, you know? Like, maybe you have a game where you play as the conductor, or, like, you play as one of Snatcher's minions or something. Wouldn't that be really neat? Like, just think about that. There's just so much potential that can be done with a Hat in Time sequel or spin-off game. This could have been, like, the next Mario, Sonic, or Ratchet and Clank, but it's just a one-and-done deal, which is the sad part. But oh well. If I'm not mistaken...
Here we go!
Oh, yeah, this happens, because we already have 25 pieces. That caught me off guard. I was like, what the fuck? Oh yeah, right, this happens. What's my opinion on Mustache Girl? She's alright. She's an alright character for what her purpose is.
I made it. I
And that's
infiltrated that kid's spaceship.
kind of
with
inoffensive.
alarms going off. I bet she's collected a ton more timepieces than I have.
But I think,
Where does she keep them?
in my opinion, she's the weakest character in the game. Like, she's the weakest character in the game,
Jackpot!
but at the same time, she plays her role
Where she
well.
stores them all.
So it's like, it's hard to really
Time
say anything
to
good
mess
or
with
bad
time.
about her because of that. She's the weakest character in the game, mainly because of how much personality the other characters have compared to her. Because her whole character is basically like, I'm blinded by a quest for justice, but I'm the real bad guy in the end. That's basically her whole character, whereas other characters are more deep than that. You got the Snatcher, who comes off this really creepy and, like, over the top, like, Halloween-esque character who yells a lot and tries to, like, steal people's souls through contracts and stuff. But that's just the surface. He has a backstory where, like, he was previously married to what's her name, Queen Vanessa, and I'm gonna basically explain this story because I cut out the time rift that told it, mainly because I didn't get all the pages and I just thought it wasn't really worth showing. But basically, he was married to Queen Vanessa, and he spoke to some flower lady to buy flowers for Queen Vanessa. And then Queen Vanessa thought he was flirting with that lady, so she locked him up in the dungeon. And that's where he became the Snatcher. Like, he died in the dungeon and became this ghost that made contracts. The contracts are related. If you read, like, some of the pages in Queen Vanessa's mansion, you'll find out that her husband, or the prince or whatever, was, you'll find out that he was trying to be a lawyer, and that's kind of where the Snatcher's contracts come from. So, like, there's extra layers on top of him. You have the conductor in EJ Grooves, who on the surface are just bitter rivals, but they're a little more deep than that. They both had this dream from like really little kids that they wanted to make movies and earn awards for it. And when they found out they had to share a studio with someone else who shared the same dream and ambitions, they weren't happy about it. So their rivalry doesn't really stem from like a personal hatred of each other. It more so stems from them seeing the other as getting in their way, which is kind of interesting to think about. You have, okay, the Mafia guys are pretty surface level. I can't really talk about them like that. But like I said, you got those three characters that are more than just their surface level stuff. And they're really interesting for that, especially the Stature. The Stature is the most well thought out character in this game. Then you have Hat Girl, whose entire backstory is basically Mafia show up, Mafia take control, Hat Girl sad. That's basically all it is. It's not as interesting as like the other backstories. It's kind of stuff you could have pieced together yourself anyway. If you get what I'm saying. And that's not to put her backstory down. It's a backstory that works and it's interesting. It's just compared to what they did with other characters, I don't care about her backstory as much. Especially because her character isn't as interesting as other characters. And while other characters are redeemable, she's not. Every character in this game has a redeemable side that you'll see eventually. You'll either see them in their chapter, like you do with DJ Groove / the Conductor, depending on whoever's on your side during that boss fight. And like you'll see with the Stature coming up in this final boss, they all have redeemable sides to them. They're not like horrible people, horrible like criminals that are just heartless like Mustache Girl sees them as. They're just these regular people with neutral morals, kind of really neutral morals, who are mostly only looking out for themselves, but they also care about other people, as showcased shortly with how they care about Hat Kid. Like, they're not heartless beings that just deserve justice. They're people. They're real, like, they're people who do good and bad things, obviously. Whoever sides with you in the boss of the second chapter, you'll get to see them do both good and bad things. You'll also get to see both them and the other one do good things in this final boss. The Snatcher, you see him do a good thing by giving the last timepiece to Hat Kid. Sure, he was worn down to do it, but the fact that he did it in the first place kind of shows he isn't as evil as you first think he is. Because if he was as evil as you first think he is, you'd think he'd battle Hat Kid to the death just to keep the timepiece, you know? And to get her other timepieces. But he's not. Plus, you're going to see shortly that he actually does have a good side in this final battle. It's interesting to think about, because once you know, like, see these characters' good sides, you kind of realize how fucked that, like... My mask. I'm not happy about that. You kind of realize just how fucked that Mustache Girl is. Because it's not Mustache Girl really, like... it's not Mustache Girl, like, actually prosecuting people who deserve it. Okay, maybe aside from the Mafia probably deserves it, let's be real. But it's not her prosecuting people who deserve it, it's her prosecuting people that just did bad things, but they're not the most horrible people ever. Yes, the Stature steals your soul, but he also gives it back to you, gives you the last timepiece instead of battling to the death, and even helps Hat Kid in the final battle. Sure, DJ Groove / the Conductor will take all the credit for their movie and give you none of it. And will, oh fuck. Sure, they'll take full credit for the movie and give Hat Kid none of it. and then try to kill Hat Kid when Hat Kid finds out they still have a timepiece. Sure, that's true. But then one of them sides with you during that boss against the other. And then you have the finale here where they make a sacrifice for Hat Kid. Like, they're not bad people. They just did bad things for selfish reasons. I see them all kind of morally gray, you know? Like, I feel like that's what most people in the real world are morally gray. Like, most people in the real world are capable of doing equally good and bad things. Granted, none of the shit people do in the real world are probably as bad as what the Snatcher does by taking souls and stuff. But you get my point. Like, most people in the real world are capable of doing generally good and bad things. Maybe nothing like too severe, but they're capable of doing good and bad things. They're morally neutral is what I would call them. That's what I feel like most of humanity is morally gray. Yeah, you have good people and you have bad people, but like, good and bad people still do good and bad things. Most often by mistake, if they like... Most often bad things done by good people are mistakes or misunderstandings, but you get what I mean. It's just interesting to talk about, you know? Morality. It's an interesting subject. And I know I'm probably like reading too deep into like talking about morality relating to this game, but when you think about it, most of the characters of this game are written to be morally gray. The only exceptions are Hat Kid, who's obviously a hero, and Mustache Girl, who's obviously a villain. And even Hat Kid in the really early game is kind of selfish because she wants to keep all the timepieces. But at the same time, she realizes how dangerous it is to give the timepieces to just anybody. That's why she like doesn't want to let Mustache Girl take any. That's why she doesn't want to let DJ Grooves or the Conductor keep any. Same with the Snatcher, because like obviously when you look in the case of DJ Grooves, the Conductor, the Snatcher, Hat Girl has a little more justification at the time of not trusting them with the timepiece because she hasn't seen like the bad side of Mustache Girl yet. But she also was right about not letting Mustache Girl take them, especially Mustache Girl. Because think about it this way. The Snatcher probably wouldn't have done anything with the timepieces. He probably would have just kept... I can't see him having any, like, thing to do with them. Maybe he would have went back in time and fixed things with Queen Vanessa. But I can't see him doing that because, like, with how crazy Queen Vanessa went, he probably wouldn't want to go back to that. He'd probably just keep them for whatever reason, I would imagine. And DJ Grooves / the Conductor just wanted to go back in time to change an event. The Conductor wanted to go back in time and get the one award he didn't win in the timeline we didn't go down. And the DJ Grooves wants to go back and win an award where the Conductor did. So it's like all of them have less harmful uses for the timepieces than Mustache Girl does. Mustache Girl turns the world into a big lava palace and persecutes basically, or not persecutes, but like wants to kill basically everyone but Hat Kid. And the moment Hat Kid like defies her and tries to fight her, she decides that Hat Kid's a bad guy too, even though Hat Kid has only really done heroic things for the most part. It's just interesting, you know? To think about that, like, at the beginning of the game, the character who seemed the most harmless to give a timepiece to is simultaneously the worst one to give a timepiece to. I love those penguins though, that just snap, get lost, snap, snap, snap. It's just funny. Oh yeah, I forgot about that chef person. I forgot about
fixing
them.
everything. No
I guess
more
they're
bad
more on the heroic
Can't
side
you see
too. I
that
can't
I'm
really
doing this for
tell with
all
them
of
because
us?
they aid Hat Kid, but that's all they do. They just aid Hat Kid a couple times. But yeah.
How can you stand behind these people? They're crooks, criminals, and you're helping them. This ends now.
This is where the boss gets interesting. Ladies and gents and non-binary individuals. I need to find a better way of like addressing that there's non-binary people too without like. It's just kind of, I don't have a word for it, you know, like I could say other individuals, but that sounds even like less respectful. You know, I'm just trying to be respectful to everybody here. It's just like, how do you add something to ladies and gents aside from non-binary individuals that's respectable? It's respectful, personally, you know, because I respect non-binary people. Like, that's why I'm even trying. But it's like, if you say and others and other folks or something like that, it sounds insulting, and then non-binary individuals just sound like you're trying too hard. It's like, what do, you know? Maybe I should just stop saying ladies and gents in general. Who knows? Who knows indeed?
Yeah, got it.
I do really love how like this all comes together though, like all the NPCs helping you and stuff. First you get the conductor and the mafia guys, then you get the snatcher and the big ram goat dudes, whatever they're supposed to be. No, they're definitely not rams. They look more like goats. I don't know what they're supposed to be though. You get those dudes and the snatcher helping you in the second part. And in the third part, some people sacrifice themselves for you. It's just really interesting. Let's go. This boss is pretty fun too. Like, this game generally just has good bosses. It's kind of, I imagine it's probably weird to get platformer bosses right because the games are like mostly moves and jumping rather than attacks. Like you have moves and jumping. Like basically the games are about moving around. So you have to like apply like logic that would work with the boss fights. Like you just have characters jump on them. You give a homing attack like you do in Sonic games in A Hat in Time, or do you just give them like a bitch slap or a weapon to melee with, like Hat Kid also has? Like you have two means of attacking bosses with Hat Kid, which is not common in platformers. Usually you only have one method of attacking the boss. Like think about it. There are exceptions, obviously. Like you have Sonic Unleashed, where like all the daytime stage bosses, you could, well, at least the first two daytime stage bosses. I don't know if you can do it with the third one, but the first two, you could actually just boost into them instead of homing attacking, really, if you have enough on the two-speeder. But I think that's only something you could do in the HD version? No, you can do it in the SD version. I forgot, you can do it in the SD version. Because I've done it before. But for the most part, platformers usually have one method of attack. You either jump on the enemy, you have something like a homing attack, you have a melee attack, just anything like that. Like, what's a good example here? Let's name the Crash 2 bosses. You can only attack Ripperoo with a spin attack. You can only attack Komodo, Mo, and Joe. Or no, you can only attack Komodo Joe with a spin attack, and then he hits Komodo Mo because of that. You can only attack Tiny Tiger by leading him into an area where he'll fall off by jumping around. You can only attack Engine with throwing Wampa Fruit, and you can only attack Cortex with a spin attack. Think about that. Like, Crash Bandicoot is a good game series, and it has some pretty good bosses. But its bosses usually only have one method of being hit. You either jump on them, spin them, or you have a unique situation like with Tiny and Engine I just mentioned, where you lure Tiny off the stage, or you throw Wampa Fruit at Engine. It's just interesting. The bosses in Crash 4 get a little more complicated than that, but you still, in the end, can only attack them one way.
So she'll get lost. Let's roll.
It is impressive when platformers do have multiple ways of attacking a boss, like how Sonic Unleashed tackled the first two daytime bosses, how this game tackles bosses when most of them could be homing attack, jumped on, and melee attack. Or I haven't tested if they can be jumped on actually, but I assume they can, because that's how most platformer logic works. Or how, like, in Ratchet and... okay, to be fair, in Ratchet and Clank games, you can only attack enemies with weapons and bosses, usually. But you have a plethora of weapons to use, usually. I don't think there's one Ratchet and Clank boss where you don't have more than one weapon. So there is technically multiple ways of attacking a boss in Ratchet and Clank games. Alright, we died. I was wondering why we're watching this cutscene again, but yeah, we died. Cat Girl, I don't like you. I don't like you, Cat Girl. We ain't homies no more. You stole my timepieces and everything. I ain't what homies do. I'm obviously kidding. Like, I'm not upset about this at all. This is all stuff I saw coming. But yeah. Because I already knew the story moments of this game before I even played it for the first time. And I already did like a run of this game before doing this Let's Play. So it's not like... It's not like I was surprised by anything that really happened. If I'm to be honest. And that's not a bad thing, because most of the fun with this game is the gameplay anyway. Sure, the characters are lovable, and it is fun to see the cutscenes and the dialogue, even if you know what already happens. But it's just, the gameplay is really mainly the focus on this game. Which is the case with most games. But this one is way more gameplay heavy than Dot Hack, which is the game I'm playing alongside it. Because Dot Hack has a lot more cutscene action going on than this game does, but Dot Hack also has a serious story, where this one just has goofy characters and a simple story.
Hat girl, here, take these!
Those Mafia lads. So foolishly brave.
Oh no, guys, don't sacrifice. No, not you two.
Anyway?
Or rather, not the conductor too. No, the conductor, don't do it. Don't do it, bro. Don't do it.
Help this little hot lass.
You don't gotta do it. Let the penguins do it instead or something, or let DJ Grooves punch himself.
This angry red lass needs to
No.
get lost.
Conductor, no. Pull one out for the hubby. Okay, that was a little funny seeing the two birds just bump and then poof. That was a little funny.
What is this? If everyone disappears but me...
You might notice I do have a bias for the conductor over DJ Grooves. That's part of why I wanted to fight DJ Grooves instead of the conductor in this Let's Play, but it was also because I had already fought the conductor in my first run of the game and I wanted to experience the other way around.
My powers are disappearing?
The Express Owls are here in the background watching too. I did not notice that before, fellow Express Owl. Had to mimic those guys again because one popped on screen. Where are those guys? Because I saw them on screen, but I'm not seeing them around the arena. Where are they? I'm watching the background of the arena while Pasty fights the boss. Just to, like, find them, but I can't see them. Because they're taller than most of the NPCs standing around here that aren't the main ones, or just big dope guys. This part, you're not going to die in this last section. I think that was intentional, though. Because with how fast these attacks come, if you were able to die here, it'd be a problem. You're not able to die. You're going to get a heart every time you get hit. I feel like if I intentionally got hit over and over again here, I wouldn't die. But yeah, that's that. Should we? Nah. No, we already know what problems arise when she gets timepieces. We ain't letting that shit happen again. Hell no.
Don't leave us.
Hey, kiddo! Let's make another contract.
Oh, don't you dare leave, lass!
Let's watch our movie, darling.
Bye.
Well, we're ending here. I'm going to end off the video shortly, but I'm going to go ahead and say bye because it's the last of my commentary. So, bye.